System need.
Okay. All right. So we are touch basing on very important concept, which is about directives. Okay. Now, why we need directives? The very first question: why we need? So basically, we have seen in our previous example that whenever, not the previous session, where maybe I don't remember which session, but it is where we have created tasks, right? We keep on adding and whatever, like edit, delete, all the functionality was related to one item called task. Okay, and then if I give that task to that code, okay, then it will be able to manage the functionality, right? It will be able to delete it, it will be able to edit the name, or maybe something else later on, like marking it important, marking it done, or something like that. Okay, so that of course we have not coded off important and all that, but yeah, we could have done that. So whenever there is a reusability aspects comes into the picture, or you want to package the code in terms of a component, okay, then directives will be your way in Angular framework. Okay, so directives are nothing but but components. You can just understand the components. With components, of course, comes the feature of reusability, right? So once you declare, you can reuse as many times you want. Okay, but directives are more flexible in terms of their packaging. Okay, I would say packaging because it's like a lot of things that you can define onto it, and you can declare what type of directive it would be for me. Okay, and where we declare the packaging, it's called directive definition object. Okay, so directive is nothing but it's a function on a module, okay, which will return an object. That object will be directive definition object. Okay, now let me just go over to slide. Why again? Coming back to HTML, okay. So generally, we have seen that Angular has always approached any problem in a declarative approach, right? Right. So it does not want you to handle a lot of things yourself, but it wants you to just declare them. Okay. Once you declare it, Angular wants to take care of them, right? Like we have given you the mantra in the start, right? That you take care of the data, Angular will take care of the view, right? So the same can happen only when there is a declarative approach in everything, okay, be it whatever, and directive reinforces that objective. Okay, so basically there are some built-in directives also, like you have already used them, like ng app, ng model. I'm not sure about show and hide, but yeah, we have seen repeat, right? So these things you have already used. So they come with their own functionality, of course. So whenever you put ng repeat, like we have done in case of task, it repeats your element, right? Again and again. You don't have to do anything. It's all declarative approach, right? You can also build custom directives, right? That the way directives are being used is like any other HTML tag. And that's why we say when we are creating a directive, we are teaching HTML how to handle the new tag. Okay, so it reinforces the declarative approach and promotes reusability. Okay, so basically, whenever we have a component, we have functionality tagged into it. It can reinforce the declarative approach, and it can also promote the reusability aspect. Now it depends on you whether you want it to be totally reusable, as in you want to just package it as a file and deliver it to people. Okay, then you have to take care of a lot of other things, a lot of abstraction and all that. But if you want to be just simply abstract your code and put it into a manageable structure, then you can create a different set of different type of directive. We'll cover that in detail. Okay, but the nutshell is that you can also create your own custom directives. Okay, remember whatever comes with ng hyphen, it's a directive generally. Okay, and it is by default available in Angular. So to prevent the name spacing or the confusion, you would not name your directives with ng. Okay, you would name it anything, but not ng hyphen to start with. Okay. Well, nobody is stopping you to do that, but this is an ideal situation. Okay, let's jump to the code. Oh, I need to exit from. Like we always used to do, I have created tag hyphen, sorry, it's the 11. So 11.0 and 11 are different actually. It's my mistake, but yeah, please bear with me. So, yeah, it will take you to a start position of from where you can start building your own directive. If you see at this point in time, we have the same task application, okay, which will have edit and delete buttons. So if you want to see it in running, I can show it to you running also. Okay, I have tweaked it a bit to make it look like much better. Oh, straight away too. Whatever. Okay, so the functionality is in such a way that if you click on this, it will become editable, and then you can just edit it and save it or delete it. Okay, same application almost, right? Now what we want to do is we want to package this task item element into a directive and see how the directive will help us. Okay. So you see this functionality is already written over here, right? So whatever we want to put in the ng repeat is nothing but we want to handle this, the functionality of wrapping up the task level object. Okay. Okay. So what we can do is that we can create a folder directives here. Okay. You guys have this version. Just can you go back to this? Say git checkout -f tag /11. Don't put 11.0. Just say 11.
Only we have implemented this.
Yeah. Yeah. First, you need to do git fetch, of course, because otherwise you will not have tags that are newly created. So you need to do git fetch, git space fetch. And once it is done, you can do git checkout -f tags /11. Now see how to do that. This is the way. This is the highlighted text. Okay. Do it first. You're late.
Sorry.
Okay, I will take you to one level ahead because I just wanted to prevent time. It's already 3:15. Just wanted to show you how this will look like later. So Okay. So I have created a folder directives. Okay. And in the directives, I have created a directive. And to start with the directive, I can say app.directive, and I can name anything. Okay, I have mentioned task list. So remember this naming convention. The way that you name over here is camel casing, but when you put it into the HTML, wherever you are doing a camel case, you have to just put in hyphen and all smaller. Okay, so that way you will represent your, and you see that it is returning an object, right? Right. So this object is called directive definition object. Okay. This configures your directive. Okay. Now there are some basic configurations that are required. One is restrict. So you can restrict how the directive will be used, whether it will be used as a tag, okay, or as an attribute, sorry, or as element and attribute and class. So you can also use directives as class, okay? But we are using it as element, so I put in E. And then scope. So if you want to, let's say, create additional scope for my directive, I can say scope true or a new object for the scope altogether. But if I want to link up the scope of the directive with the parent means wherever I'm going to use it, whatever controller or maybe another directive itself. Okay, then we have to say false. Okay, if I just wanted to use in the same scope, I can say false. If I want to create a child scope, I can say true. And there is another scoping premise also. We'll cover that later. Okay, where I can declare an object. And then I have created a template also. So whenever I create a directive, I'm free to create a template also. So which means that you can or cannot create a template. It is not compulsory, right? It's just that if you want to inject some content or some template, you can use template. You can also use template rather than template URL. So you can declare your template directly over here as an HTML tag. Okay. And then there are two things. One is the linker and another is compiler. Okay. So right now, most of the things you will see that we are using linker. So this is a link function is the linker function, which actually links up the code and adds it on the top of your code. Okay. On the top of Angular compile code. Okay. So if you want to handle some functionality, you can put into the link. Okay. So in the link, what I've done, I've actually copied and pasted from my task controller. If you see the task controller in your machines, you will see these three functions in the task controller, right? I'll just remove it from there and paste it over here. Okay. So now the thing is that you see scope.tasks, right? Scope.task is nothing but actually it is being created in my tasks controller. If you see scope.task is here, right? Now, how come it is available in the directive? Any guess? No. No. I haven't used the controller over there. Scope. How come scope getting transferred? So like I said in the start that whenever you create a directive, you are free to declare the scope, how the scope of this directive will be linked to the parent scope. I said false. If you say false, it will not create any additional child scope. Okay. If you say true, it will create a child scope which will inherit the parent scope. Okay, and because of that inheritance only, you got that scope.task in the scope of the directive. Okay, understood? All right. So which means that we can do anything, whatever is related to my tasks application. Once I do this, obviously I will remove those functions from here. Okay, I've removed already, and obviously we need to create this template. right? That we have declared here. So I've gone ahead and declared the template over here, and the same functionality just copied and pasted here. Okay, not copied or maybe cut and paste. Okay. Now I'm ready with my directive. This task list directive is ready, right? And then I've gone to my application, and rather than that cluttered code, I've written one single tag saying that task-list. You remember we have put in the name of the directive as task list. So we need to just break that down. The hyphenated tags, right? All lowered. It should match. It's a convention of actually Angular being used, right? So we have to say task list. Now, if I just run my application, it should pretty much run in the same way that it was doing earlier. But my code is now more manageable, more usable, right? You see, I've used this tag here, but I can use this tag anywhere. Okay, but there's a dependency. Okay, what is the dependency? Task. Because this I'm using in the repeat. When I'm using in the ng repeat always gives a task to my item, right? Which I was already getting. So task is one dependency. What is next? What is another dependency? If you remember, we have talked about tasks. So this is another dependency of my code, right? Provided these dependencies, I can reuse my directive anywhere, right? But these dependencies have to be available in the parent scope, right? Okay. Remember this, that we have a dependency, sorry, whenever we have a parent and child scope relationship, okay, where there is no boundary, of course, there is an inheritance, then we have dependencies in the code. But we can remove them. Okay. How? How we can remove them? Okay, just think of it. Suppose I say scope dot task equals to name random task. Okay. Suppose I say this, and in my task I copy this, and I don't put it into this UL thing, put it separate. Because the task is available, okay, it will do the functions which are related to the task, okay. So you can just click on it, you can do some editing, you can say save. What you cannot do, you cannot delete. Because delete is a function which needs tasks, right? So it is always tied to the dependencies, right? Now how to clear them? Okay, there's a slide, let's just go through it. For custom directives, scope true within controller scope, of course. Multiple directive instances bound to different objects on the scope behave the exactly same way, right? We have seen that all the tasks that I was creating with directive replicating the same functionality, right? Same functionality whatever I've created without directive. With directive, without directive, there's no difference, right? Just that code structure wise, it's pretty much manageable, because when you are coding a larger chunk of application, then it would be very handy. And then more like getting HTML stuff packed in a component structure. Okay, this is my custom directive if I have a scope true. Okay. So what is next? isolated. So isolated scope provides the boundary in between parent and the child scope. Okay. Now, because of that boundary, you are explicitly passing the objects that you want to pass to the directive. Okay. Just like a JavaScript function, right? JavaScript function can expect some parameters, isn't it? It can expect some parameters and can return something, isn't it? Same way, your isolated directives can expect something and can give you the functionality on the basis of those inputs, right? Now what happens is that because of this isolism, there is a clear distinction, very clear distinction between parent and the child scope. There is no clutter, no messy scopes, okay? And you see what you are passing and what you are not passing, okay? So parent scope and directive scope remain separated, of course. Can reuse the directive with different objects under the same scope. Now this is important. We were using our directive with tasks, and every task object was different object, right? Now imagine something like user management form. Okay, so user object as a whole is coming from the server. Okay, and there's a form which is like manipulating either the first name, last name, but user is the same object. It's only the different properties, right? If you pass that object, to multiple directive instance which are having the same non-isolated scope, then obviously you will be messing up around because it will be the same object and edited by different instances of the directive which share the same scope. Okay. Let me just simplify it for you so you can understand it better. Let's take another example. Before that, we'll start with 13. Okay. Yeah, here. See here, I have like the way I've shown you earlier. Actually, I've repeated the, if you see the code, I had 2 task lists here, and of course, 1 task here, and they both are sharing this task. So, if you edit one, the second will also be editing. Of course, this is not what you want, right? And that's why there's a need of isolated scopes. Okay. So what I've done, I've created another controller, registration. Okay, just I have explained to you that we have user object which has got first name and last name. Okay, right? What I want a directive which can edit my first name and the last name. Okay, and I want to showcase it to somewhere. So here is my, let's look at this. Here's my simple code, which will actually show you what I wanted to achieve. Okay. Not okay. All right. So first name, last name. You remember? So it's just that I created a form, created 2 fields. If you see this in the code, Label. So form starts here, label input, and we are repeating it. So whenever we are repeating something, we get to know that there is a need of reusability, right? And we can create some component, we can reuse it, right? The same way that we have identified, okay, there is a need that we can create a directive and we can put it for these two different occurrences. And I still want them to be acting on separate item of one object. Okay. Okay. Separate item means this first name and last name. They belong to one object. All right. So what I've done is I have created another directive called name input directive. Name input. Okay. Restricted AE. This time I said, okay, AE. So you can use it with attribute, you can use it with element, anything. Okay. I'm fine with that. And then scope. Now this is the change. So scope is now having an object rather than true and false. Okay. When you say object, means this time the scope will be created as this object, and it will still be linked to parent, but it will not inherit the parent. Okay. If you track the chain of scopes in the Angular, you will see directive is still linked with the parent. But because these two are different objects, they are not inheriting each other. That's why they are isolated. Okay. Within scope, I have declared something. Okay. What I can do is I can declare some properties that are expected, which are as an input. Remember I said simple inputs are required as dependencies, right? So I'm declaring my dependencies as an input. So I need what? I need the name and the label, right? I cannot say first name everywhere, right? It's the first name and the last name. So label is required and the value is also required, right? So by default, any value will be populated and then we can edit that value, right? So I declare two things, uname and label. Okay. Now what you can declare as a value, you cannot declare anything as a value. You can either declare as equals to or @ or ampersand sign. Only three types of values you can declare. And two of them are important, which are equal and @ Okay. When you say equal, okay. When you say equal, remember that whatever you are passing an input, okay, and this property will be two-way bound to each other. Okay. So whatever input property you are providing, input property is nothing but actually a model, okay, which will come from your controller. Okay. And this scope dot uname, they will be in two-way binding to each other. If you provide equals to, if you provide @ sign, they will be only one way bound, which means that once it is changed, it's exchanged the values, that's it. Okay. So it will get populated your values and there's no binding to each other. Okay. There's @ and there's ampersand sign also. So when you say ampersand, it is method binding. So when you want your directive to call a function from your parent scope, you can declare ampersand sign. Okay, and you can pass a function, a method. So your directive can call that function. Okay, just like an example to quote is model dialog box. So whenever model happens, right, model dialog box comes into the picture, some interaction happens into the model dialog box, and then user will close it, either accepting it or closing it, canceling it, whatever, right? So some information from the model dialog box should go to the parent, right? And that can go either through two-way binding or through method invocation, right? Then you can use that ampersand. Okay. Generally, if you write a very declarative approach, which is good with Angular, you should need only these two. Okay. All right. So you have noticed that I have put a name also in front of them. So if I want to just totally abstract the naming convention also, I can extract using this. So username is the property through which you will define the value to input, and they will come into uname variable. Okay, so you will declare username, but it will come into uname. Okay, fine. So just before jumping to template URL, I just wanted to show you how they are used. The values are populated. So just see this here. Again, I'm using the same convention. Name input is being divided as with hyphen, name hyphen input, and username. You remember uname equals to username? Okay. So username equals to something. This is coming from my controller, user.firstname. Okay. And then label equals to firstname. Okay. Understand? Okay, very good. And then in my another name input, obviously I want last name to be edited, and then I can say label equals to last name. This I could not do in my task list application, right? Because I haven't declared any input parameters there. There's no choice, right? It automatically works using the parent scope. But here there's a segregation, so we need to explicitly specify that. Okay. Now, when this happens, this user.firstname get assigned to uname. Now, how to use uname? That is there in the template. So, if you look at this template, which is there, I said any model equals to uname. Okay, and label equals to in the double curly braces. I said label. All right. And one more thing, if you have noticed this, there is no linker function because I don't really need it, right? I am not putting any special functionality, so I don't need linker. I can just skip it. Okay. Now, if you see, I can still change anything and it will get reflected. Now, this is, what is this? I mean, I know this is James and G they want to, but what is this? This is actually in my controller, in my parent controller, which means that whatever you are putting in here is actually getting transferred to the controller, right? And there is a connection established between directive and my controller, right? If you want to verify that, you can see it here. It's outside of the directive, right? It's just outside of the directive. Is that okay? You understood? Or is there any doubt? Because then I will have a doubt. Any doubt? No doubt? Not yet. Okay, very good. Now you tell me that if I change this at the rate to equals to or equals to at the rate, what I have to change? So suppose I change this to equals to. What I'm doing here? I mean, what is the meaning of it? Huh?
Dual binding.
Dual binding in between.
You pass the label, the negative, and it returns the back.
Okay. Unfortunately, we don't have label as editable item, so nothing will happen.
Same
Right? Same difference. And one issue would come, by the way, that when you consume them, okay, if you are consuming it with a directive, okay, then you don't have to specify these curly braces. Of course, that's a normal condition. But when you specify them here, you okay. Let me just change opposite. Okay, let's change this to at the rate. when you use with the @ sign, which is one-way bounding, then you have to specify this as curly braces as an expression. When I say two-way bound, then Angular will resolve the value and bind the objects to each other, and that is why curly braces are not required. Okay, but when I say @, okay, I have to specifically provide the value rather than the string, because there is no way Angular is going to resolve that expression. Okay, you have to explicitly mark it there. Okay. Now you see, I do anything, but my initial value remains same because I have it one-way bound. Okay, understood? Well, all right. Any doubt on this?
This is very important concept actually. Everybody knows this clearly.
Yeah, it looks very simple because we are using a very simple example.
Link and combine.
Okay, we'll go over there. Maybe we'll not go over there because compile is not not the function that you can understand now, and not the function that you would need so, but I can explain to you what is compile. So just like linker, right? Whenever a directive is okay, so you have understood the digest phase earlier, right? The previous session. Digest phase is like that, and then it figures out whether there is a dirty checking. Oh, sorry, there is a dirty model, and then it resolves to the watcher. If there is any watcher which is watching this item, then it will update the view. Right? That was the digest cycle. In between this digest cycle, where comes the directive? Where the directive comes? Any idea?
When application is being initialized.
That's it. No idea. Okay, so when I bootstrap my application, I have directive definition object, okay, that goes and sits into the Angular framework and figures out what all are two-way bound and one-way bound. Okay, so whatever is two-way bound will again come into the dirty checking, and we'll figure out whether okay the model is dirty. Then of course you have to go back and you have to link your models, and then you have to populate your view according to the watcher. Right? Two-way bounding is actually setting an implicit watcher. Okay. So obviously directive has to come into the picture in every digest cycle loop. So what happens is that before anything else in the scope can be digested, the directives have to be digested, and directives can have a chain of it. So a directive can have a subdirective, which can further have another subdirective, right? Right? How you chain them? How you chain a directive?
Calling directive inside.
No. In the template itself, you can quote another directive. Okay. That way, Angular will resolve. Anyways, so the child of the child of the child will get resolved first, and then parent, and then parent, and then parent, and that way the whole chain will be established, and digest loop will be performed. Okay. So whenever it is happening, obviously, if it is non-isolated directive, there is no problem. Of course, you don't have any child scope as such, which is really different. But when it is isolated scope, you have to keep track of what is passed to the scope and what is not. So if there is something, it is changing in the controller and it not passed into the directive, there is no dirty checking happening in the directive for that. Okay. All right. Okay. Anything else you have in this isolated scope? No? So, how a directive can communicate to another directive, for example?
We need to inject the directive name
Directive name.
for the control directive.
Okay.
Another template you need to keep.
That's a nesting. Yeah. But how they will communicate? Nesting is different than communication. You understand that, right? So that is what our next topic is. Can they communicate? Yes, they can communicate, of course. But you have to add a controller, right? Controller will list down the APIs that you can expose over your directive. Okay? And the another directive which want to use those APIs or all those functions has to require them. Okay? The word require is used over here. Okay? That way you can link a directive to another directive which wants to communicate. Okay? It can happen. Can it be two-way communication? Can it be two-way communication? No, it cannot be. It will be a cyclic redundancy and it will not work. Almost all the cases. Okay. So until as you don't say controller as, which is actually very advanced item you need to put into a VM, and then you need to declare only the selective items, and then you also need to take care when you are calling one item, the another item is not getting called. It's very tough to manage, and that's why I'm saying no. Let's not try that because it's not really a declarative approach, which is actually ideal with Angular, and then again you are messing up your things. Okay, in a longer run, it will not be manageable. So, how do we do that? So, I think this is going to finish in time. Okay. I've created another directive for that. Welcome directive. Okay. What is this directive doing? This directive actually does not do anything. It does not do anything on its own. Okay. So if you look at, just leave the linker function for now. Okay. Just ignore it. If you look at restrict template is all fine. Controller is having only scope.words. Okay, which is actually nothing but an array, right? And these are some functions, two functions, say hello, say hi, right? And they are pushing static item hello or hi into the words. Okay, it's not doing anything because these functions are not getting called. Until as these functions are not getting called, that words is not getting populated. And because words are not populated, label will not show anything. Right? So this is a dead directive. It's not doing anything. So it's a kind of directive which actually provides you functionality only in terms of APIs. Okay, pure API. Right? Now you can write down your own directive, another directive, maybe in the same file, okay, or maybe in a separate file. It doesn't matter. It has to be same module. Okay, the directive, you can say hello directive, and then I again declare my return function, sorry, return object, and then I say restrict, what should I say? Attribute. Okay, attribute, right? And then I don't need really a template for that. I really want to require this welcome directive. Okay, you say require. Require what? So when I say welcome means I'm getting the welcome controller, not the directive as a whole. Okay. So in my linker, there's a change. Now, apart from scope, what else? Element and attributes. Controller is getting injected. You can give it anything, but it will get injected. Okay. And then you can call this function. So now you have controller. Can they say hello? Now what will happen is this directive is call say hello of this controller. And this say hello, what it will do? Put the hello to words. And then what will happen? The words is already getting populated into the label, the template of my welcome directive. Now welcome directive will start showing something. Right? Let's see whether it actually does. Oh. Obviously, I need to use this directive somewhere. I've already used them somewhere. Hello, well, no. No. Where? Yeah, here. Registration. Huh? Welcome. Actually, the same. So, still nothing. Where? Why it's not there? Because I have not actually used my second directive. Okay, I have declared it, but I have not used it. What was the name? And hello was attribute based directive. Now you can see hello. As soon as hello directive comes into the picture, its linker comes into the picture and it calls hello, say hello function of my welcome directive. Now welcome directive has got words and words are getting injected into my label. And that is all that is happening here. Okay. Now tell me if another directive, let's say for example, I copy paste this guy and say hi and call my say hi function into it. Okay. And I use hi here. What will happen? Both will show. Really? Okay. Yeah, both will show. Come on. Hi, hello. James Bond. Okay. What if I use them again?
Hi is calling them hello.
Yeah. Why so? Why?
Executing technique from lecture.
Exactly. So first the I said the child and child and child and the child last child will get combined first and then second and third going back to the parent, and that is what the execution the linker phase. The linker phase of the directive is happening. Okay, I think it was a good question. Multiple inheritance is not possible. Okay. So hi, hello, because I used twice. Okay, that's it. I think you're good with it. You understood everything, or something is pending? I mean, not understood well. Hmm? Was it simple?
I have one doubt. I went to use linker.
When to use linker. So if you want to specify something, right? Like I have used linker here also. Okay. Look at what I'm doing here. So I'm adding a functionality, or I'm changing the model. Okay. Within an isolated scope, obviously you can change the model, right? Right. It will not impact the outside world, or it can impact if it is two-way bound. But if I want to change some functionality which I want to wrap up in the directive, I would like to use linker. Okay. And if I want to change my template, then I can use my compile function. Okay. Right. Now, if you see this, back of this, you want to see that? So when I roll over, it gives me this console log. Can you see this? It is because I have coded that into this. Element.bind mouse enter. So whenever I do mouse enter into it, it will console log my array. Okay? And that is the functionality that I have coded. If you don't want, you can totally skip the linker function, like we have done in the previous directive, right? It's totally optional. Okay, the way you want to use it. All right. Just a very small question before we proceed. Wherever we specify template, right? We have specified template in numerous ways, like in routes also we can do, template URLs we can also do. You have seen the template usage here, right? Rather than URL, because it was a very small template, I have just coded in there. Okay, where all these templates gone? This template. So template URL, for example, how they are getting linked, because I have whatever is there in the templates, I am not actually calling them anywhere. What do I mean? Whenever I create a controller or a directive, I am calling it here, right? These all are controllers and these all are directives. Remember, we have to definitely call the directives to add them to my HTML. But I am not anyways calling these templates anyhow. So what happens is whenever I bootstrap my application, the whole application is being filtered out into numerous caches. Okay, and one of them is template cache. After the application is loaded, when I say loaded means any one view is rendered. Okay, which means the application is now running in the run phase. Okay, that time all the templates have to be or supposed to be in my template cache. Okay, and if you edit through any mechanism, either through Ajax or server-side calling or anything, it will not impact the application because it is there in the template cache now. And Angular will refer all the templates from template cache. Okay, if you want to edit, you can edit the template cache. Okay, it's free. I mean, you can do that, but it's really messy to do it. Okay, and that's why the compile phase is there. If you want to really change your templates on the compile, on the runtime, on the compile time again, you can use the compile phase. Okay, you should ideally not change your template cache. Okay, and unless it is not really forced to do. But yeah, there is one thing called template cache. Okay, you can refer, and you can even in your debugging you can figure out the template cache. Maybe you can say console log template cache and you'll see. Sorry. No, it's not inside browser. It's actually Angular's. How can I show you? Hey, you can also set your template cache by yourself. Okay. let me try injecting it. I believe it will get injected. Template cache. I say console log template cache. Again, template cache is a so template cache. See, get, you can say get, and you can get your template. Now, how to get the template? Using the same path that you have declared over there. In the same path you can use to get the template. Okay. So that's it. I think animation was also there. I will just quickly run through because I believe animations were covered in the earlier session, right? Okay. Just wanted to highlight some points. You need to obviously inject your Angular animate. There is another separate code chunk because there is into the chunks. So a style object which will animation. Okay, so you can do that. Staggering animations are also there, which is actually a good way to create a curtain like effect, like when something is opening, then one by one all the things are opening. So some curtain like effect you can do with staggering animation. How much is covered, but I just wanted to quickly give you one example. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's time only as
Okay. Comments not covering enough detail onto it, and once you get into it, then you can do this. And it's really a good what do you call tutorial is there on animate angular.js.org, so you can refer it anytime. I just wanted to say fade in and fade out. Okay. If you look at the code, it is very simple. Where's the code? Where's the code? So, like I said, it is CSS based. So I've created 4 classes. One is to 2 is to fade in, and 2 is to same event active. Shishir, if you are trying to say something, I'm not sure.
No, but in the middle of you were saying we lost the connection. So
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. So active will be like the last step of your animation. The first step and the last step, and in between the animation will happen. So first step is ng enter, last step is ng enter active. Okay, and in between the animation will happen. Animation will say opacity 0 to 1 in 0.5 seconds. Okay, and that's the same way it is fading out. So opacity 1 to 0 in 0.5 seconds. Okay. And what I've done to the template, I said on button click, bool equals to true or bool equals to false, which is bound to ngF. Like I said, the built-in directives are aware of animations. So whenever bool will become true, this whole div will be rendered. Okay, and the div has the class fade in that I've created. Okay, so that way this word fade me in out will either appear or disappear with animation. All right, it is very simple. If you start using it, you'll get to have a handle of it. Okay, I'm not going into too much of detail because time is also not there, and secondly, it's very specific to your requirements. All right. The last is the exercise. The last exercise. Who has done it and who has not done it, I would say. Because I haven't received any email. Have you received any email? No. No mail means no delivery, man. If you create and build a project with yourself and keep it with the Axiom repository, client will not be happy, right? What? Okay. Pradeep?
Completed and sent to.
He's saying no email?
I have shown to him, but I have not made.
It's like you've given a demo to client but not given him.
You can
It's
upload
okay.
it in Git files in there. If you get lot of,
Not required, not required. Actually, Git will get heavier and heavier.
otherwise my mailbox will be.
And Samya, you?
70% completed.
70%. How you arrive on the percentage?
When you are zipping, please don't zip with the node modules.
Yeah, don't zip with the node module. Node modules, Bower libraries are not required to be zipped. And yours? I just forgot your name, sorry.
Sanjeev.
Sandeep. So maybe I will devise out some exercise this time and maybe not because you are already lingered on. But if you get a chance, I believe I'll still push out some exercise related to inbox. So we'll create some kind of mini inbox or Instagram grid, okay, using the directives. Okay, I'll push out an email for that. All right. Shishir, on your side, do you have people doing the exercises? Have you sent the exercise to them?
I reply to or she
Shishir,
Yeah, Devendra?
lost the connection.
I was just asking, in fact, checking that if people are doing the exercise over there.
Yeah, I've asked like all of them just to wrap their project and send up to you. Your email ID is there with everyone. So I've told to everyone.
Okay, I would definitely be available on the email, but I would still, suggest to send it to Naren because last exercise was given by Naren.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Otherwise, alternatively, it can come to me and I can bypass. No problem.
sure.
Okay. So before next session, I would like to see if at least the previous exercise is completed. If not, the new one. Okay.
Sure, sure.
All right. Cool. All right. That is from my side. You have any question from your side, Shishir?
Not as of now, Devendra. Thanks.
All right. Because directive is like the heart of Angular, so it's
Correct.
very important to.
Correct.
Okay. All right then. See you later.
Have a nice time. Bye.
Yeah. Bye bye. Thank you.